So, welcome. This is the third of our sessions with Entrepreneurs Unlocked and our ambassadors. And I'm really pleased to have with me today one of my wonderful ambassadors. So, quick 60-second pitch, John. We've practiced yet. So, what's your name? Where do you come from? And how did we get to know each other?
Okay, I'm John Hastings. I'm from Recycle IT, which is a social enterprise in Bolton that collects and recycles computer equipment. And how we got to meet was through the Ant Junction, a social network for like-minded people who want to help the community empower itself.
Pretty much about 2 years ago now, I suppose. Yeah. And I think what's really good is that you gravitate to like-minded individuals.
Yes.
And I think, had you done a pitch that part of that session, or had I done a pitch?
I think both.
We've both done a pitch, I think, haven't we? And it was understanding that people like John, who's like a social entrepreneur, wants to help sort of people, really fitted in with my sort of personal understanding in terms of what to want to do. And for those who don't sort of know, Entrepreneurs Unlocked is a social enterprise based in Bolton, similar to John. We are actually in John's premises today in his new digital hub, where he's going to be working and training sort of people to sort of upskill in the digital world and computer recycling, which is fantastic. As it says on the poster, we're both about supporting people to change their futures, through the world of work, through the world of recycling, and for ourselves through entrepreneurship. So that's how you can use your skills and talents to earn an income, maybe working for somebody else, being an entrepreneur, or maybe working for yourself and being a small business owner. We primarily work with people in prison and people on probation to think about using their skills and talents in a way to earn an income and not sort of come back to jail. We know at the moment that with John, look at the news, lots of people coming into the jail system, the jails are full. We need to find a way to be able to reduce that risk of someone reoffending, costing the taxpayer money, creating more crime and creating more victims of crime. And I think our personal missions align really sort of quite well in terms of what we're sort of doing. So in terms of our sort of understanding, as I say, John has been an ambassador for pretty much since the beginning of the programme, really.
First cohorts,
The first cohort where we were going and talk to people in prison, talk to people on probation, to help them think about the way to do less of the things they're doing.
Overcome barriers, overcome obstacles.
And I think what's really quite key is
perspectives.
We're in this facility now, which is how many square feet?
Nearly 4,000.
Nearly 4,000 square feet.
It's easy to say that.
4,000 square feet, and we met originally down in Commerce House, which is probably about 400 square feet, wasn't it? Which is sort of quite a challenge. But I think what it shows is that someone with the right, grit and determination and willingness to succeed and willingness to change and remove barriers can become a successful entrepreneur. And I'm really proud to have John as part of my sort of professional network, as well as an ambassador for the programme, and going in to sort of talk to sort of people with convictions in prisons.
We was talking about this morning. People with lived experience, we have different drives. We have more resilience about us and drive because we've been down and low. And so we know how important and fundamental it is to take a chance and go with it, and that's where have that opportunity. We're more motivated.
I think you can be more motivated,
and
I think it's that sort of bit of sort of intrinsic motivation. What drives us internally and what factors externally help us sort of develop and grow. So in terms of your organisation now, as I say, we're sitting in sort of Recycle IT. So we said before, it sort of works with sort of people to sort of upskill and remove barriers. So typically, what type of people would sort of maybe sort of engage with?
So we've just ran a pilot with probation, with HMPPS for teaching probationers how to recycle and refurbish equipment. And then we work with Best Choices in Sapphire on a Wednesday, so that's people that's autistic and disabled and that have learning difficulties or barriers. They can come on a Wednesday and they can learn to recycle and refurbish. And then on a Thursday and a Friday we have T-level students coming from 2 different colleges working together.
Right, so who are those colleges now, John?
Bury and Bolton.
Bury and Bolton, alright.
Right on our
and they get sort of valuable work experience.
They do, they not only get work experience, but they get hands-on with equipment where it's not quite, it's easily done in the industry, it's not the item industry is quite closed and quite. So we give them hands on different things to recycle, refurbish, and work on. But whilst they're doing it as well, they're having work placements. They're going through work ethics. We've got HR in place. We're starting to put all of those things around.
Sure.
Good employability and best practices in HSE. There's a big learning curve for us as ourselves as we come up and step up from a small community organisation into a larger scaling one. That it comes with its own set of challenges, but there's just as rewarding because we can see at the output at the end. We have a social thing called the theory of change, and we can see at the end of that theory of change, the output is the benefit of the community. So we're really invested at the moment in getting our systems right, getting our practices right, getting our processes done, and working with other organisations and other leaders and poaching from them. Copying, plagiarism is the best form of flattery in some ways. So
sharing best practice, mate.
Sharing best practices.
Sharing best practices.
Sharing best practices.
Okay.
Because we are genuinely, we're people, grassroots people from the community that's risen up to meet a challenge that is digital poverty and climate and environmental climate damage, and the two go hand in hand. And then we've realised, well, actually, there's the community itself that needs a venue, needs a place, needs an outlet, and be able to understand technology and have meetings and groups and set up different things. I've only taken the thought process up to so far because I think the community itself, through steering groups and through its own actions, can take it further.
Yeah, and I think
it needs
really,
that venue.
Yeah, I think it's really important, isn't it, that you've got, particularly around engaging in other communities in the world of work, and for the young people doing the T-levels and the people on probation, they may not have, particularly if they're coming through their T-levels, they may not have any work experience, and that's what's really quite key now, isn't it, in the world of work. Someone who's done the T-level and that sort of so many hours of work experience elevates their skills and their knowledge and prepares them for the world of work, so they're more employable in the future, and also for the people on probation. So how has that sort of gone in terms of sort of feedback from those that have done through the programme? Have they found it sort of valuable for them and their own
really
skills?
Valuable, really rewarding, very thorough, very great feedback.
Good, yeah, and I think that's the idea is sort of as someone who's like a social entrepreneur, it's to sort of being able to reduce those barriers and finding ways to be able to connect with people and understand that people learn in different ways. We talked before about people having neurodiverse sort of talents, and people learn in different ways, don't they?
We do, yeah.
And I think it's sort of you understanding from your own perspective how that impacts how you learn and how you communicate.
Definitely.
But putting strategies in place to help you cope with that situation, but then sharing that with people that may be in your shoes. Okay, I think that's quite important, isn't it?
Yeah,
so become an advocate.
It's not so hard, it's not so difficult when you have help and when you have mentors around you and peers around you. And challenges, they don't become so much challenging anymore, they just become something to deal with. And how do we broach this? How do we get through this now? Yeah.
And I think it's really sort of quite key. In terms of where we sort of want to get to, obviously the ambassador programme, as you say, we're going to prisons, and we'll talk a bit in the section 2 about the people we've met in prisons, but it is based on people with lived experience of the criminal justice system, and you were kind enough when we first sort of met, because you understood what I was doing in prisons, to sort of talk about the past that you'd had, and
yes.
which has helped inform you in terms of where you are now. So what I'd like to do, if we can, in the second part, is sort of talk a little bit more about yourself, and if you don't mind, talking a little bit about your history and the things you've done in the past, and how it's helped inform you in the future to be where you are today as a director and a founder of a social enterprise that's grown and flourishing. So
an award-winning.
Yes, that'd be fantastic. So we look forward to part 2 in a moment.